Fort Myers condo prices are down 10.2% in 1 year. Jacksonville just earned the title of worst large housing market in the entire country. And right now, Florida is sitting on 13.2 months of condo supply, more than a full year of inventory, with almost no buyers coming. Stand on the balcony of any 10th floor condo along the Florida coast, and you see the Atlantic, the waterways, the palm trees catching the afternoon wind. Florida sold itself as the dream, and millions bought in. But here's what they are not telling you. We are counting down the 10 Florida condo markets collapsing right now, where HOA bills doubled insurance, made buildings unsellable, and owners are bleeding cash with no exit. And number one is the city that was supposed to be Florida's safe, affordable answer. Subscribe now so you never miss the next housing warning. Drive the resort corridor south of downtown Orlando on any weekday morning, and the scene practically sells itself. Palm trees, blue fountains, freshly painted condo buildings with banners out front, reading, "Now selling move-in, ready starting from the low 300s. It looks like someone packaged the Florida dream and priced it to move. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Narada Real Estate's 2026 Florida forecast, Orlando condo values are projected to decline 1.6% this year, in a market where units were disappearing in days just 3 years ago. The investors who bet on remote worker demand, keeping this market afloat, are now watching that demand quietly walk out the door. And the reason is not complicated. The buyers who drove Orlando's condo boom were never putting down permanent roots. They were remote workers chasing Florida weather and pandemic-era flexibility. That flexibility ended when employers called people back. When the migration reversed, the demand it created reversed with it. A growing number of first-time buyers in this market report the same version of the same story they stretched to buy in 2021, expecting appreciation to keep working in their favor. Instead, they are watching neighbors list below what they paid and sit unsold for months. If you bought near the top, here is what happened to your money. According to data tracked by House Canary and reported by Redfin for mid-2026, Florida condo prices have fallen 9.9% in the past 12 months. On a condo you bought for $300,000, that is roughly $30,000 gone before counting the HOA increases that came after closing. If the Florida condo dream was supposed to be affordable, what do you call a market where your HOA bill is higher than your car payment and there are still no buyers? Pull off I-95 into Palm Beach County, and the scale of the money hits you before you even reach the exit ramp. Manicured medians, stone pillar gate entries, high-rise towers on the intracoastal with balconies the size of Manhattan apartments. Palm Beach has always meant one thing: price goes up here. Always. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. Palm Beach condos are tracking alongside the broader Florida condo collapse, and the statewide numbers are brutal. According to data tracked by House Canary and reported by Redfin for mid-2026, Florida condo prices have fallen 9.9% in the past 12 months. In a county built on the premise that wealth insulates you from market cycles, that is a number people are not yet willing to say out loud. The deeper problem is what is arriving in the mail. According to FPAT's 2026 Florida Condo Compliance Report, some Palm Beach condo buildings are now facing special assessments exceeding $200,000 per unit on top of insurance premiums that are, according to multiple 2026 insurance industry reports, 181% above the national average. The people hardest hit are not the ultra-wealthy who can absorb a $200,000 letter. They are the retirees on fixed incomes who bought here a decade ago, expecting the HOA to stay manageable. They are the people for whom this was supposed to be the reward at the end of a working life. If you bought a Palm Beach condo at the 2022 peak, the 9.9% decline across Florida's condo market has already taken a piece of your equity. The assessment letter has not arrived yet. But according to FPAT, for many buildings in this county, it is coming. You paid a premium for Palm Beach. Now the HOA is sending you a six-figure assessment letter. Who exactly is going to buy this building from you? Cruise down A1A through Fort Lauderdale on a clear morning, and it is hard to argue with what you see. The Atlantic on your right, mega yachts in the marina on your left, condo towers with infinity pools catching the first light. Fort Lauderdale has always sold itself as the grown-up version of Miami Beach, equally glamorous, slightly more affordable. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Redfin's February 2026 data, 44.9% of Fort Lauderdale home sellers have cut their list price, the fifth highest rate of any major metro in the United States. Almost half the sellers in this market are already waving a white flag. That is not a soft landing. That is a retreat. The reason is supply flooding in from every direction. During the 2021 and 2022 boom, investors poured into Fort Lauderdale, buying condo units as short-term rental vehicles. Now, those investors are all exiting at the same time, listing hundreds of nearly identical units into a market where migration demand has already pulled back. According to Redfin's 2026 Florida data, new listings in the Miami-Dade and Fort Lauderdale corridor are surging while buyers sit on the sidelines. A growing number of investors in this market report the same situation. They bought in 2021 expecting a rental premium. They held through 2023 waiting for the market to stabilize. They are now listing into a flood of competing inventory and cutting their prices just to get a showing. If you bought a Fort Lauderdale condo at the 2022 peak, the statewide 9.9% condo decline tracked by House Canary translates on a $350,000 unit to roughly $35,000 in paper losses. And 44.9% of your neighbors are already selling for less than they hoped. Almost half the sellers in Fort Lauderdale have already cut their price. So when 44.9% of the market is waving a white flag, who do you think is still holding on and why? Drive through the newer condo developments north of Tampa on a Saturday afternoon, and you will notice something that should not be happening in a healthy market. The guest parking lots are half full. The pool areas are quiet. There are more for sale signs in the lobby directory than anyone who bought here was led to expect. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Redfin's Florida HOA fee report, HOA fees in some Tampa Bay condo buildings went from $650 a month to $1,400 a month in 2 years. More than double. And the building still has not finished all of its required repairs. The driver is Florida's Surfside reserve mandate. After the 2021 collapse that killed 98 people, Florida law now requires condo associations to fully fund structural reserves. In Tampa buildings that went decades without setting aside a single dollar, the catch-up bill is being transferred directly to unit owners every month without negotiation. The human face of this appeared in Redfin's Florida HOA fee report. A Tampa Bay condo owner listed their unit and received 0 offers in 4 months. Nobody wants to pay $1,400 a month on top of their mortgage, they said. That is not just one seller's problem. That is a market structure problem. If you bought a Tampa condo at the 2022 peak of around $320,000, here is what happened to your money. According to Narada Real Estate's 2026 projections, overbuilt suburban areas in Tampa are facing declines of up to 8.9%. That puts your unit at roughly $291,000, a paper loss of approximately $29,000. Before counting the HOA bill that doubled on you. Your condo HOA went from $650 to $1,400 a month in 2 years. How many more years of that can your retirement account absorb? Walk the waterfront at downtown St. Pete on a weekend, and the city genuinely pulls you in. Sailboats, art galleries, the kind of neighborhood coffee shop where regulars actually know each other's names. For a decade, St. Petersburg has been sold as the undervalued alternative to Tampa walkable creative, and still priced below where it deserves to be. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. The aging condo towers that give downtown St. Pete its character are now directly in the crosshairs of Florida's Surfside reserve mandate. Under state law passed after the 2021 Surfside collapse, it is now illegal for Florida condo associations to waive or underfund structural reserves. In buildings that ignored those reserve requirements for decades, and there are many in the St. Pete waterfront corridor, the law has triggered mandatory reserve funding demands that are landing on unit owners as six-figure special assessments. According to data from Norada Real Estate and Zillow for the first quarter of 2026, the broader Tampa-St. Pete Clearwater Metro showed modest overall price movement, but the condo segment is declining. And according to House Canary's mid-2026 Florida market report, the state is sitting on 13.2 months of condo supply. That is more than a full year of inventory, with almost no buyers coming. A growing number of St. Pete condo owners report receiving assessment letters demanding immediate reserve contributions they never planned for. In buildings where reserves were essentially empty, those demands are running into the tens of thousands of dollars per unit due now, not over time. If you bought a condo in downtown St. Pete in 2021, betting on the up-and-coming story to keep running, here is your update. The mandate is not negotiable. The reserve requirement is law, and every buyer who walks through your door can ask their agent one question before they make an offer. The Surfside mandate is not going away. The reserve requirements are not negotiable. So the question is, who is going to buy your St. Petersburg condo, knowing this building still has millions in deferred repairs? Walk through the lobby of any mid-rise condo tower in Miami-Dade, and the design tells you exactly what was being sold here. Marble floors, a concierge desk, engineered palms and stone planters. This market was built on a very specific promise buy here, and the world will always want what you have. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Redfin's Florida condo data, for 2026, Miami condo prices fell 3% year over year, while condo sales collapsed 9% and new listings surged 27%. That is a supply flood hitting a buyer desert. But the price drop is not even the part that should worry you. What should worry you is what is arriving in the mailbox. According to Redfin's Florida HOA fee report, Miami-Dade condo fees have climbed 59% since 2019, from $567 a month to $900 a month. That is an extra $4,000 a year in carrying costs. Every year, with no ceiling in sight. And then there is Mediterranean Village in Aventura. According to FPAT's 2026 Florida Condo Compliance Report, the association there levied a special assessment of up to $400,000 per unit to meet post-Surfside structural reserve mandates. $400,000. That is not a maintenance fee. That is not a repair bill. That is a government-mandated demand, and if you cannot pay it, your own HOA can foreclose on your unit, even if your mortgage has never been a single day late. At the Cricket Club in North Miami, the figure was $134,000 per unit, according to the same FPAT report. Owners who could not pay listed their units immediately. The buyers who found out about the assessment disappeared before they ever walked through the door. If you bought a Miami condo in 2022, here is what happened to your money. According to Redfin, prices are down 3% year over year, and that understates the damage when you factor in the fee increase. The extra $333 a month in HOA costs since 2019 means you are absorbing nearly $4,000 a year in additional carrying costs every year. And the assessment has not even arrived yet for most buildings. Mediterranean Village just assessed some owners $400,000 per unit. That is not a typo. So ask yourself, is there any price you could list your Miami condo for that would make a buyer feel safe? If this is hitting close to home, hit subscribe. We cover these markets every week so you can stay ahead of what is coming. Drive the waterway neighborhoods of Cape Coral on a weekday morning, and the city's pitch makes instant sense. Every house has a canal behind it. Every canal has a dock, boats tied up everywhere. Cape Coral was the entry-level version of the coastal Florida dream, the place you could afford the lifestyle without paying Sarasota prices. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Redfin's March 2026 data, Cape Coral home prices dropped 4.8% year over year, with the median sitting at $351,000. Zillow's 2026 data confirms the decline at 4.7%. That makes Cape Coral one of the few Florida markets where two major data sources agree on the direction and that direction is down. The reason goes back to Hurricane Ian. The storm exposed exactly how vulnerable this canal front city was to catastrophic weather risk. Insurance companies responded by raising premiums or pulling out of the Florida market entirely. According to data from Zillow and Redfin, the Cape Coral-Fort Myers metro is now forecast to decline 10.2% total in 2026. The buyers, who might have stretched for a canal front unit, are running the insurance quotes first and not coming back. A growing number of canal front condo owners in Cape Coral report the same impossible math. They are simultaneously paying elevated flood insurance, HOA fees, rising under the Surfside Reserve mandate, and hurricane deductibles that have tripled since 2021. They are trying to sell into a market where buyers have already done that math and walked. If you bought near the 2022 peak of around $450,000, here is what happened to your money. According to Redfin's March 2026 data, the median is now $351,000. That is approximately $99,000 in paper losses before you add the insurance increases and HOA hikes that arrived after closing. You bought in Cape Coral because it was supposed to be the affordable version of coastal Florida. Now Redfin says you are down nearly $100,000. What exactly was the affordable version of that? Come into Fort Myers along the River Road, and the city offers you a genuinely beautiful argument for why people bought here. Royal palms lining the median, the Caloosahatchee River catching afternoon light, condo towers with waterfront views that used to move in a weekend priced for a Florida river market within reach of a working family. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Redfin's February 2026 data, Fort Myers home prices are down 10.2% year over year, with the median sitting at $340,000. 10.2% in 1 year. That is one of the steepest declines posted by any major American metro in any state, not just in Florida, in America. Fort Myers never recovered its buyer confidence after Hurricane Ian made landfall in September of 2022. The storm exposed exactly how exposed this market was to catastrophic weather risk. Insurance companies responded by raising premiums sharply or exiting Florida entirely. Buyers who might have stretched for a Fort Myers condo in 2023 ran the insurance estimates first and did not come back. The people who stayed are now trying to sell to people who will not. A growing number of snowbirds, who paid peak 2022 prices in Fort Myers, report the same situation. They cannot sell at a price that covers their purchase, and they cannot hold a property where annual insurance costs have become unrecognizable from what they were told to budget at closing. If you bought in Fort Myers near the 2022 peak of around $480,000, here is what happened to your money. According to Redfin's February 2026 data, the median is now $340,000. That is $140,000 in paper losses without selling a single thing. Fort Myers prices are down 10.2% in 1 year. That is not a correction. That is $140,000 vanishing from your net worth. So when does this stop? Drive into Northport on the developments west of I-75, and you see exactly what the pandemic boom built in real-time streets, so new the asphalt still looks dark. Zero-scaping in every front yard, houses with 3-car garages and no kids on the block. Northport invented itself between 2019 and 2022, almost entirely on the back of out-of-state buyers who needed somewhere to go. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to data tracked by Zillow and local market sources for 2026 Northport home values, are down roughly 10% year over year, dropping from around $335,000 to approximately $301,000. According to Narada Real Estate's 2026 forecast, the broader Northport-Sarasota-Bradenton metro is projected to decline between 6.3% and 10.2% across the year. The market that went up the fastest is coming down the hardest. The driver is straightforward. Northport's entire appreciation story was built on buyers who were not from here. Remote workers from California, New York, and the Northeast chasing Florida prices before they got too high. When the rate environment shifted in 2022 and employer return-to-office mandates came down, those buyers tried to leave. And the market they left behind had no organic demand underneath it to absorb the selling. A growing number of remote workers who relocated here between 2020 and 2022 report the same realization: they are trying to return to their home states and discovering they cannot sell without absorbing a loss they never modeled into the decision. According to Redfin and local market trackers, this metro is generating some of the largest per-transaction paper losses in Florida for buyers who purchased at the peak. If you bought in Northport near the 2021 peak of around $335,000, here is what happened to your money. According to Zillow's 2026 data, that property has lost roughly 10%, putting your current value around $301,000. Approximately $34,000 gone. And according to Narada Real Estate, this market has not finished correcting. Northport was one of America's fastest appreciating markets in 2021. In 2026, it is down roughly 10%. If you were one of the buyers at the top, what is your exit plan? Come into Jacksonville on I-95 from the north, and the city greets you with skyline river bridges, the wide St. John's, cutting through the middle of downtown. Jacksonville has always had a specific pitch: the largest city by land area in the continental United States, affordable by Florida standards, far enough from the noise of Miami and Tampa to feel like a place where real people actually live. But here is what the real estate agents are not showing you. According to Redfin's January 2026 data, Jacksonville condo prices dropped 7% year over year. Condo sales in the same period collapsed 27%, and new listings surged 32%. 7% down, 27% fewer buyers, 32% more inventory, all three happening at the same time in what was supposed to be Florida's safe, affordable answer. According to Narada Real Estate and House Canary's 2026 housing market rankings, Jacksonville has been ranked the worst large housing market in the country. Not the worst in Florida, not the worst in the Southeast, the worst in America. The city that was aggressively marketed as the antidote to overpriced Florida metros is now leading the national collapse. That is not a footnote. That is the headline. A growing number of first-time buyers and young families who chose Jacksonville specifically for its affordability in 2021 and 2022 report the same experience: declining values, HOA, costs rising under the Surfside Reserve mandate, and a buyer pool so thin that aggressively priced listings are sitting 90 days or more without a serious offer. They chose the safe bet, and the safe bet failed them. If you bought a Jacksonville condo near the 2022 peak of around $270,000, here is what happened to your money. According to Redfin's January 2026 data, condo prices are down 7% year over year. That puts your unit at approximately $251,000, roughly $19,000 in paper losses. And with sales down 27%, the pool of buyers who could make you whole is shrinking every month. Jacksonville was supposed to be the safe, affordable Florida bet. According to Narada Real Estate and House Canary's 2026 market rankings, it has just been named the worst large housing market in the country. If the safe bet failed, what does that tell you about the risky ones? Every city on this list followed the same script. Pandemic-era migration flooded in. Prices shot up. Builders overbuilt to meet the demand. Then the migration reversed. But the HOA bills did not reverse with it. The insurance premiums did not reverse. The Surfside Reserve mandates did not reverse. And the buyers who were supposed to absorb all of that extra inventory, they did not show up. Florida condo owners are now holding properties with declining values, exploding monthly carrying costs, and a growing pool of buyers who either cannot get conventional financing or will not pay anywhere near what sellers need. That is not a temporary imbalance waiting to correct. That is what the market is right now. But here is the part that most people missed when they bought. A falling price, you can wait out. You can hold through a bad year. What you cannot wait out is a six-figure special assessment letter from your own HOA arriving, because Florida law now requires it with a deadline that does not move. What you cannot wait out is a building that loses its warrantable status because its reserve fund is empty, cutting off conventional mortgage lending for every unit inside it. At that point, you are not selling to the open market anymore. You are selling to cash buyers who know exactly what leverage they have. The warning signs were always there. They were in the insurance rate tables. They were in the reserve fund audits. They were in the Surfside investigation report that sat on desks in Tallahassee for years before it became law. The warning signs were always there. The question is, were you watching? This video is for informational purposes only and does not constitute financial or real estate advice. Always consult a licensed professional before making any investment decisions. Subscribe, share this with someone who needs to hear it, and drop your city in the comments below.